When I joined the Coast Guard in 2006, my goal was to get stationed on the largest boat I possibly could to increase the chances of my traveling. I was fortunate enough to receive orders aboard the Coast Guard cutter Boutwell out of Alameda, California. Shortly after reporting for duty, we were scheduled for a 6-month Eastern Asia patrol. I couldn't believe how lucky I was. I'll never forget when we moored in Shanghai, China. Representatives from the government literally rolled out red carpet for us. A select few of us were invited to dinner and showed an in-depth look into their culture through song and dance. I absolutely loved Shanghai and would absolutely love to go back someday. For these reasons, I've decided to focus my Capstone 5 project on rising sea levels in Shanghai, China. As we've learned thus far, climate change causes sea levels to rise due to a few different reasons. One being an introduction of additional water into our seas via melting ice sheets and glacial ice, while the other reason revolves around the expansion of seawater due to a global increase in temperature. Areas all over the world are dangerously susceptible to this aspect of climate change, and Shanghai is certainly no exception. The underlying threat that the people of Shanghai are most worried about is the vast increase of flooding due to continued sea level rise. Unfortunately, it's not difficult to imagine Shanghai completely underwater in the next 100 years if drastic actions aren't taken. Experts around the globe consider Shanghai one of the most vulnerable areas regarding flooding due to sea level rise. Shanghai is highly susceptible to powerful storm surges, considering it's only about 13 feet above sea level, while at the same time subsidence is slowly but surely causing the city to sink. Furthermore, Shanghai severely lacks any kind of infrastructure geared towards mitigating the problem. With all these contributing factors, it's quite easy to understand why experts have come to the conclusion they have. If sea level continues in its upward progression, the future of Shanghai is definitely grim. Even conservative predictions show a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in global temperatures, which will equate to global sea level rise between 1.7 and 3.2 feet by 2100. Again, those are very conservative numbers, but even if they stay in this conservative range, Shanghai will still see a punishing amount of flooding damage. Anything above these numbers could be life-changing to Shanghai citizens. For instance, according to Climate Central projections, a global temperature increase of 3 degrees Celsius would displace 17.5 million people in Shanghai. It's these kind of numbers that become symbiotic with the pre-existing physical handicaps Shanghai possesses. They could be in serious trouble. If climate change continues to act as the catalyst for increased sea level rise, the people of Shanghai will almost certainly be forced to make life-changing decisions. First, there are economic implications. Shanghai is the world's prime financial and shipping center for cargo vessels. It's this port that employs hundreds of thousands of Chinese workers, and due to ever-increasing sea levels washing away the delta soil the port is built on, ships will be forced to seek other ports. The loss of these ships equate to a plethora of job loss, decreased import and export, and higher prices for consumers. Another problem the people of Shanghai will have to face is their living situation. There are roughly 22 million people who call Shanghai home. And if we continue to see increased sea levels, at some point, all those citizens will be forced to leave their homes behind and find sanctuary somewhere besides the city, which will literally be underwater. Rising sea levels due to climate change could be alleviated just like every other residual effect of climate change. But we as a species need to do better. It wouldn't happen overnight. But if every single one of us did our job protecting and conserving our planet, we would eventually see this problem begin to get better. Although in this particular situation, Shanghai has begun implementing their own measures. In 2014, Shanghai launched something called the Sponge City Initiative. The idea is to literally retrofit 80% of urban land with things that have the capability to absorb or reuse 70% of floodwater. The city has already invested in permeable pavement, artificial ponds, wetlands, and rain gardens that store excess water in underground tunnels and tanks and only return it to rivers when the levels have subsided. They've also been constructing some 520 kilometers of protective seawalls and barriers to control overflowing rivers. Projects such as these take many years and require a great deal of funding, but it's absolutely a step in the right direction.